If You Had Wings by Dallas Lore Sharp. Coffee Break Collection 37. More Birds. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Tom Merritt. If you had wings. If you had wings, why, of course you would wear feathers instead of clothes, and you might be a crow. And then, of course, you would steal corn and run the risk of getting 3 of your big wing feathers shot away. All winter long, and occasionally during the spring, I have seen one of my little band of crows flying about with a big hole in his wing. At least 3 of his large wing feathers gone, shot away probably last summer, which causes him to fly with a list or limp, like an automobile with a flattened tire, or a ship with a shifted ballast. Now, for nearly a year, that crow has been hobbling about on one whole and one half wing, trusting to luck to escape his enemies, until he can get 3 new feathers to take the places of those that are missing. Well, why doesn't he get them, you ask? If you were that crow, how would you get them? Can a crow, by taking thought, add 3 new feathers to his wing? Certainly not. That crow must wait until wing feather season comes again, just as an apple tree must wait until apple growing season comes to hang its boughs with luscious fruit. The crow has nothing to do with it. His wing feathers are supplied by nature once a year after the nesting time, and if a crow loses any of them, even if right after the new feathers had been supplied, that crow will have to wait until the season for wing feathers comes around once more. If indeed he can wait, and does not fall a prey to hawk or owl, or the heavy odds of winter. But nature is not going to be hurried on that account, nor caused to change one jot or tittle from her wise and methodical course. The Bible says that the hairs of our heads are numbered. So are the feathers on a crow's body. Nature knows just how many there are altogether, how many there are of each sort. Primaries, secondaries, tertials, greater coverts, middle coverts, lesser coverts, and scapulars in the wing. Just how each sort is arranged. Just when each sort is to be molted and renewed. If Master Crow does not take care of his clothes, then he will have to go without until the time for a new suit comes. For Mother Nature won't patch them up as your mother patches up yours. But now this is what I want you to notice and think about. That just as an apple falls according to a great law of nature, so a bird's feathers fall according to a law of nature. The moon is appointed for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. And so light and insignificant a thing as a bird's feather not only is appointed to grow in a certain place at a certain time, but also knoweth its falling off. Nothing could look more haphazard, certainly, than the way a hen's feathers seem to drop off at molting time. The most forlorn, undone, abject creature about the farm is the half-molted hen. There's one in the chicken yard now, so nearly naked that she really is ashamed of herself, and so miserably helpless that she squats in a corner all night, unable to reach the low poles of the roost. It is a critical experience with the hen, this molting of her feathers. And were it not for the protection of the yard, it would be a fatal experience. So easily could she be captured. Nature seems to have no hand in the business at all. If she has, then what a mess she's making of it. But pick up the hen. Study the falling of the feathers carefully. And lo, here is law and order. Every feather as important to nature as a star, every quill as a planet, and the old white hen as mightily looked after by nature as the round sphere of the universe. Once a year, usually after the nesting season. It seems a physical necessity for most birds to renew their plumage. We get a new suit, some of us, because our old ones wear out. That is the most apparent cause for the new annual suit of the birds. Yet with them, as with some of us, the feathers go out of fashion. And then the change of feathers is a mere matter of style, it seems. For severe and methodical as Mother Nature must be, and what mother or teacher or ruler who has great things to do and a multitude of little things to attend to must not be severe and methodical. Severe, I say, as Mother Nature must be in looking after her children's clothes, she has for all that a real motherly heart, it seems. For see how she looks after their wedding garments, giving to most of the birds a new suit, gay and gorgeous, especially to the bridegrooms, as if fine feathers did make a fine bird. Or does she do all of this to meet the fancy of the bride, as the scientists tell us? Whether so or not, it is a fact that among the birds it is the bridegroom who is adorned for his wife. And sometimes the fine feathers come by a special molt, an extra suit for him. Take Bobolink, for instance. He has 2 complete molts a year, 2 new suits. One of them his wedding suit. Now, as I write, I hear him singing over the meadow, a jet black, white, and cream buff lover, most strikingly adorned. His wife, down in the grass, looks as little like him as a sparrow looks like a blackbird. For after the breeding season he will molt again, changing color so completely that he and his wife and children will all look alike, all like sparrows, and will even lose their names, flying south now under the name of reed birds. Bobolink passes the winter in Brazil, and in the spring, just before the long northward journey begins, he lays aside his fall traveling clothes and puts on his gay wedding garments and starts north for his bride. But you would hardly know he was dressed to look at him, for strangely enough he is not black and white, but still colored like a sparrow, as he was in the fall. Apparently he is. Look at him more closely, however, and you will find that the brownish-yellow color is all caused by a veil of fine fringes hanging from the edges of the feathers. The bridegroom wearing the wedding veil? Yes, underneath is the black and white and cream buff suit. He starts northward, and by the time he reaches Massachusetts, the fringe veil is worn off, and the black and white bobolink appears. Specimens taken after their arrival here still show traces of the brownish-yellow veil. Many birds do not have this early spring molt at all, and with most of those that do, the great feather wings are not then renewed as are bobolinks, but only after the annual molt, after the nesting is done. The great feathers of the wings are, as you know, the most important feathers a bird has, and the shedding of them is so serious a matter that nature has come to make the change according to the habits and needs of the birds. With most birds, the body feathers begin to go first, then the wing feathers, and last those of the tail. But the shedding of the wing feathers is a very slow and carefully regulated process. In the wild geese and other water birds, the wing feathers drop out with the feathers of the body and go so nearly together that the birds really cannot fly. On land you could catch the birds with your hands, but they keep near or on the water and thus escape, though times have been when it was necessary to protect them at this season by special laws, for bands of men would go into their nesting marshes and kill them with clubs by hundreds. The shedding of the feathers brings many risks to the birds, but nature leaves none of her children utterly helpless. The geese at this time cannot fly because their feathers are gone, but they can swim, and so get away from most of their natural enemies. On the other hand, the hawks that hunt by wing and must have wings always in good feather or else perish lose their feathers so slowly that they never feel their loss. It takes a hawk nearly a year to get a complete change of wing feathers, one or two dropping out from each wing at a time at long intervals apart. Then here is the gosling that goes 6 weeks in down before it gets its first feathers, which it sheds within a few weeks in the fall, whereas the young quail is born with quills so far grown that it is able to fly almost as soon as it is hatched. These are real, mature feathers, but the bird is young and soon outgrows these first flight feathers, so they are quickly lost and new ones come. This goes on till fall, several molts occurring the first summer to meet the increasing weight of the little quail's growing body. I said that nature was severe and methodical, and so she is, where she needs to be. So severe that you are glad, perhaps, that you are not a crow. But nature, like every wise mother, is severe only where she needs to be. A crow's wing feathers are vastly important to him. Let him take care of them, for they are the best feathers made and are put in to stay a year. But a crow's tail feathers are not so vastly important to him. He could go on if, like the rabbit in the old song, he had no tail at all. In most birds, the tail is a kind of balance or steering gear, and not of equal importance with the wings. Nature, consequently, seems to have attached less importance to the feathers of the tail. They are not so firmly set, nor are they of the same quality or kind. For, unlike the wing feathers, if a tail feather is lost through accident, it is made good, no matter when. How do you explain that? Do you think I believe that old story of the birds roosting with their tails out? So that because of generations of lost tails, those feathers now grow expecting to be plucked by some enemy, and therefore have only a temporary hold. The normal, natural way, of course, is to replace a lost feather with a new one as soon as possible. But in order to give extra strength to the wing feathers, nature has found it necessary to check their frequent change. And so complete is the check that the annual molt is required to replace a single one. The Japanese have discovered the secret of this check, and are able by it to keep certain feathers in the tails of their cocks growing until they reach the enormous length of 10 to 12 feet. My crow, it seems, lost his 3 feathers last summer, just after his annual molt. The 3 broken shafts he carries still in his wing, and must continue to carry, as the stars must continue their courses, until those 3 feathers have rounded out their cycle to the annual molt. The universe of stars and feathers is a universe of law, of order, and of reason, and of if you had feathers.